days.
Yep.
And it's run by a company called It's like Percept YM,
Okay.
um, who help companies run these employee surveys worldwide. It's more for like global organisations, but they also help them use the data, then find like their biggest uh, problems, and then what's been highlighted from the employee survey, and help them like produce a roadmap on to create it or like to deal with the problems.
That sounds so. It's like a research-based approach, isn't it? And that would work well because we're talking about multinational organisations on this. So that's um, so. Have you got any examples of what they've then gone on to do as a result of feedback?
So we only did this survey a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
So I think they're still. They said they wanted a couple of weeks to
Yeah, of
gauge or go through the
course.
data.
Yeah. So is that okay? So that would be yeah, interesting to see. Previously, if they had done anything that's a bit different, what have they done previously to try and?
We have done them in the past, but I'm not too sure what they actually changed.
Yeah,
To be honest, I don't know if anyone else knows. Maybe not.
you're getting the same response I get,
Yeah.
Kieran. Um, okay, that's useful, and that's also quite good because of um, because it's in a difficult position at the moment, isn't it, in terms of the business? So it would be maybe silly to presume, or do you know what I mean? What people are thinking or
Yeah.
feeling or what they want. So yeah, it will, that's definitely something that would be good to write about. Okay, thank you. That's a good opening. Anything else? Anyone else find anything of interest? Tamsin, I'm not gonna ask you only because you've given us some fantastic examples already, if that's okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Um, Tom, yay, just the person, Mr. Apple. Uh,
So I got they focus on employee development.
right.
So at Apple, where it says that they rotate employees between the top departments, so it gives them an opportunity to like develop new skills and like be able to work with new people as well.
That works well on the networking side that we are just talking about as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Building alliances, that if you've got that, then because you know, it's difficult if you don't know people in certain areas. Okay, that's a good. And do you know what's really good about that for Apple? It doesn't cost anything, does it really, to,
Yeah.
so that's quite effective. Okay. Anything else?
What from my side?
Yeah, from sort of
Yeah.
Apple's perspective, were there other things?
They also give employees freedom as well. So they let employees create policies as well. So they get to like decide like the strategic like day-to-day runnings of the organization as well. So it sort of gives them like the opportunity to then decide how they think it should be run as well. So they get like a higher influence within the business, really.
Okay. Um, that's really good for its autonomy. Yeah, to do that. Yeah, again, you've got some really good things to talk about there.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I wonder whether, you know, when they come up with these policies, is that everybody or is that again more at the top levels?
I can imagine it'd be the same type of thing as what Aston does. So they would get their feedback and then they'll come to a consensus based off the feedback given, I'd imagine.
Yeah, because I think what we need to be careful, Apple has a reputation, doesn't it, at the bottom end of their suppliers not
Yeah,
being
yeah.
super organisation. So it would be interesting to see actually how they're doing. You know, is it all the way down or is
Yeah,
it?
I can imagine it's based in their like headquarters, I'd
I,
imagine.
I yeah, don't yeah,
Yeah,
I can just
yeah.
yeah,
I
they're
can't imagine
almost
it being China factories, to be honest.
yeah. But are the China factories actually? They sound, are they actually at Apple or are they a supplier? Because if they're a supplier, I don't know. It's like what level of responsibility do you have? How far down the chain? Which I suppose is what we're going to come on to later, which is around ethics, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so yeah, fantastic. It is interesting what's you know, what is actually really happening and what is, you know, what like a sort of almost a PR type thing. But yeah, thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Rob, have you found anything on Tesla?
Yeah, I have done. Yeah, it's more around the safety that Elon Musk got involved in. So there was quite a lot of workplace incidents with injuries. So what he did and said was that he was going to meet with the safety team every week, and then would like to meet every injured person as they are, and then he was wanting to understand exactly what they did to obviously have the accident, and he'd actually perform their job on the production line to try and sort of come up with a way of making sure it's safe. And yeah, it's quite cool.
He's
That actually happened though.
yeah. do you
So
believe
again,
Kushner saying did it actually happen? What a
there's
cynic,
pictures of it,
Kushner.
so whether he did it or not, whether he was just posing for the picture.
Yeah, but you can imagine. I suppose it depends on the volume of them as well, doesn't it? Because if
Yeah, I
there's
just think a certain process, people obviously were getting injured, and it was becoming pretty obvious that there was a problem. So they said that he actually went down and performed the actual job that the person that got injured. So yeah, it sort of shows some kind of engagement, doesn't it, to employees that.
It really does, and I think he's obviously quite a character, isn't he? And it's that sort of management by walking around, isn't it? This idea. Have you ever seen the program, The Undercover Boss?
Yeah.
Channel 4, where it's sort of that idea, isn't it, of actually getting that grassroots involved. It is lovely when you think about culture, you know, the organisational culture and the cultural web. That's very nice for stories, isn't it? You know, that you sort of almost, you don't want people to pretend they're having accidents just so they get to meet him. Do you know what I mean? Like almost like, do you know what? I'll give that finger up for a chance of meeting Elon Musk.
To be fair, though, I mean, my old director, he went to Tesla a few years back, and he obviously saw the production facilities and that, and he said it was very outdated. But Elon Musk was walking around and helping people and like lifting things, and he was active. You know, whether he does that now because they're more established, I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay.
But he certainly was. You know, from the early days, he was definitely doing it.
Yeah. When you're talking about this in your assignments, so for employee engagement initiatives, what I'd relate that to is Maslow's hierarchy. That's pretty low down. Because actually, if you think about, I think the first needs are sort of really basic needs, aren't they, around safety? You know, he's really in his employee engagement addressing those. When you're more sort of established as an organisation, you'd hope to be going towards a self-actualisation, wouldn't you?
Yep.
So that might be worth noting, but that could be, again, as you're saying, because it's sort of quite, you know, at its early development stages.
Yep.
When it was. Okay, brilliant, thank you. Krushma, have we got anything on Sony?
I found some things. So this is like based on what they did in 2019, so it might be a bit out of date.
Yep.
But so they held Sony held Diversity Week around the world for the fourth consecutive year to raise awareness and promote action for change by recognition and understanding the significance of diversity. They did like talks with different universities, and they established like the University Diversity Alliance, and like had like lectures and panel discussions with employees, and then held communication workshops on managing non-Japanese employees as part of efforts to build greater trust in relationships with and boost motivation for non-Japanese employees, because like I think it's about 45% of their employees are based in Japan.
Right, okay. That's right, yeah, so they're quite culturally aware, aren't they? Or very, and that will tie in again with the ethics when we're looking at it. The sort of, have they got any big drivers in terms of their values around diversity? It might be interesting to see if it aligns to where they're wanting to become, or if it aligns to any challenges that they've experienced.
Is it an American company, Sony?
No, it's Japanese.
It's Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, do you know what I mean? Like, so Christmas, I'm sort of thinking about where the stimulus is coming from. Is it from employee feedback that they feel, or is it from some sort of vision that they've got for how they're going to behave? That could be quite good to look at.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else worthy of note? Because there's quite a few things there.
They talk a lot about sort of like health and safety, managing like their talent pool, and like attracting the right sort of individuals, things like that. But I guess that's sort of like, you see that across all organizations, right? Or like the way they're advertised.
Yes. So there's certain things that just are the norm, but some of the things to do with the diversity there are a little bit, especially the sort of Japanese culture and acknowledging. Yeah, so that's a bit different. Yeah, a lot of them talk about talent pools. Again, we've got a lot of that going on at Coventry, and a lot of people are being made redundant. So it sort of almost feels like people haven't got the feeling of safety, and yet at the top level, we want to develop and keep you. So it's, do you know what I mean? It's like it's a little bit mixed message, isn't it? When you've, but I suppose it's, you need to retain the good and want a development plan. Okay. Brilliant research. There's a lot to mention there. That's really good. When you're talking about them, right, so one thing on this assignment, so we've got a little bit of a risk in the sense of the other ones, like when we were talking about the marketing plan, for example, you've got an opportunity there to show critical analysis through providing recommendations. So you've done your research and you said, based on this, based on the understanding of that, this organisation could do whatever. So because we've got a case study now, we need to still be quite critical of what they're doing, and critical in the sense of like understanding it and maybe applying some theories around it and sort of looking at what are the things they could do, anything they could be missing out on. So ensure when you're analysing it, we're also giving that level of criticality, and that might come from knowing alternative workplaces and what they've done and how something similar could be used or adapted. But just when you're looking at things, the way to get critical analysis is to ask, so what? So what does that matter? What does that mean to? So it's to keep going deeper and deeper. So instead of it ever being just really simple, it's this, it's that, the other. So what? So what are the problems with that? What could the challenges be? What are the benefits of it? So we're not just taking things at face value. We're looking a little bit deeper, and that's why I was saying, Krishna, about is it a response or is it to change the dynamic, or is so looking at the drivers, so what's really going on here, so and then that gives that depth that, based on what you've just spoken about. Thank you, that's fantastic. Emily, tell us about a world of sharing and happiness at Coca-Cola. How do they do that through their employee development?
So they have a development program, which is, I think, is like peak performance. They can like manage process and rewards. They have a university. They've got an assessment and development forum. They also have like one-of-a-kind experiences that their employees can go on to, like the Olympics and the World Cup. Benefits and rewards, and then they have like an environment where they provide everything for the employees. So on campus, there's like credit union, dry cleaners, gyms, cafeterias, stores, and then they also have this thing called Coca-Cola Journey, which was launched in 2012, and it's basically it's like a digital magazine for an online storytelling platform where employees have agreed to share what makes them happy when they're outside of work, and they like all share it on this magazine platform. And then they have this thing called Startup U, which is a 3-day activation session where associates take time from work to share like and explore free thinking. So like people can put their ideas together and put it into action. And yeah, quite a lot. They've got quite a lot actually.
When you hear about all that, does it make you think they'd be really good to work for?
They were like listed number 4 for the world's like most admired company to work for, which you would think so. I did have a quick look at their Indeed reviews, and it's very mixed on like people saying that it's not that great of a place to work for, but then you have other people that are like, wow, it's amazing. So I feel like I think it might be dependent on the type of person you are.
And maybe the experience that you've had as well, because because it's a big organisation doesn't necessarily mean it's standardised across all areas that you work in, or all sites or countries.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the things about there's a number of organisations that have their own universities, and Kellogg's is another one actually. They have the Kellogg's Institute. So if you did, I think McDonald's might have one as well. Maybe they're operated through other accredited universities, but they are sort of the brand would be, did you say it's Coca-Cola University?
I think so, yeah. I've written down notes. I haven't got the page up. But yeah, it said Coca-Cola University.
Okay, so what would the any potential limitations be of getting a degree or a master's from the Coca-Cola University?
Well, I guess because obviously it's not a well-known university.
It's the brand, yeah, it's the brand.
It's just the brand. It's not actually, in theory, like the university. I don't know.
Do you know what it does? I think it does. It has a value within Coca-Cola. So what it does is, I think it keeps people there, because I'm not sure it would be worth as much anywhere else. So if you were choosing to do an MBA and you were going, well, and you work for Coca-Cola and they're like, we're going to pay for it, we'll give you the time, you'd go, well, of course I'm going to do it at the Coca-Cola University. But then you decide that you want to advance your career elsewhere, it just might not have the same credibility that if you'd done it at Durham or somewhere that's a sort of a more neutral brand.
Yeah, definitely.
So again, I'm just trying to come up with points with you for critical evaluation. So they are tied in. I think the idea of creating the memories, though, I mean, given their ethos, what I like when you're looking at these is look at the values and the alignment of what the organisation stands for and how their rewards work with it. And I think they sound, from Coca-Cola, like they're really well connected. It's about experiences, moments, sharing. They're trying to create that. And also, I think relate it back again, as I said to Rob, to the cultural web, because you're building in stories there, aren't you? If you've got somebody who works on the line at Coca-Cola and they're going in saying, guess what? I've just been to the Olympics because I've hit this place. It's quite good, isn't it? It's quite powerful.
Yeah.
Internal PR. Brilliant, Emily. Loads there. That's really, really helpful. Final, I know I have missed you out, Tamsin, but I know you've got some really good stuff there in terms of how they've built the team and things. So I think really good. Tom, what's Tom Main, if you're around? Can see no flicker. Okay, that could well be because he's on a different call or on one of his many other computers. Right, so let's just look at a few slides on these employee programs. I've just got my slides. Here we go. So employee engagement, only got 3 slides, so we haven't got a huge amount here to look at. So as I said, when you were talking to me, what I'm really interested in, how does it align to the organisation's challenge? How does it align to their values or their vision for where they're going? Consider whether it's away from or towards motivation. So is it away from, in Rob's case, a series of health incidents, or is it towards, in Tom Ainsley's case with Apple, this idea of creating connections across the organisation? So just think about where the motivation comes from. What we're trying to do by developing employees is we are trying to create change. And obviously change has got generally a slightly, maybe it hasn't, but I think it can have quite a slightly negative connotation, because by creating change, by developing our staff, we're constantly creating a level of instability because we're trying to mix things up a bit. We're trying to get people to be challenging things. I mentioned to you all about actually seeing the cultural connection in terms of what they're doing, because, you know, I particularly like the cultural web because I think it looks at all the interrelated areas of the organisation, and actually I think organisational development, when we're looking at employee engagement, can impact quite a few of those circles around it. And actually what it can do is, going back to Tom Ains's example of networking in terms of, you know, doing secondments in different areas, if you're breaking up the power connections between certain alliances by creating and stimulating different conversations, then actually it does threaten the status quo in terms of how and what people are connected, because actually it maybe means somebody who was set to have a promotion or thought they got a job guaranteed, they haven't anymore because other people are part of the conversation now. But also, you know, is there an agenda there? So the interesting about the sort of the diversity at Sony, you know, is there a sort of a politics behind it in terms of how they want to be seen? I did a sales course last week. I delivered one on Wednesday morning, and it was to just one person actually, and he ran a digital learning company. And he was saying there's like a charter that organisations can get signed up to now, and it is based on the triple bottom line, the people, the planets, the profits, and they're part of this charter. And it's about sort of, in essence, everything that you do, your attitudes and how you behave. And he said it's a very big part now of how people are choosing to do business with different people, different organisations, business to business. So, you know, there is this ongoing shift towards the triple bottom line in terms of, you know, so all of their organisational employee engagement strategies doing that as well. Kieran, I wonder, the research that they're doing at Aston Martin, I wonder if an element of that is about restoring stability. And Tamsin, on those wonderful events that they're doing, I do as well wonder whether that's about, there's so much change, there's so much growth. Do they want to get everybody together to create a sense of community so that there is that core stability? And Emily, in your Coca-Cola stories, that's, you know, they could be doing that as well, where you're building a sense of cohesion. Sorry, that just brings me on to another point. The Coca-Cola stories. There's also, just in a sort of the critical analysis thing, when you work for someone, an organisation, what is it? Do you work for them or do you belong to them? And actually, if you're sharing your personal stories, how much of yourself do you want to give to your job role? And some organisations have different expectations. I worked at a small accountants once as their marketing director. It's probably about 30 people, and they had expectations at the weekends that you'd be fundraising as part of them. There was a lot of social activity that and there was a high level of, it's like you had to conform to be part of it. And actually, I didn't want to. I wanted to work really hard at work and then have a life outside of work that no one knew about, because that's but potentially that's Hofstede's, you know, cultural dimensions, what level, or not, but just personal preference. So there is a thing there in terms of sharing your story. They won't be forcing anyone to do that, but there maybe is a little bit of peer pressure. And actually, it's an employer, you know. It's so it's, I suppose some of it's how you see work. And then Emily, sorry to keep going on with yours. Another thing that I thought about when you were talking, it made me think of Cadbury's and the Quakers' roots and Cadbury's World, where they were trying to create a community. They were trying to shape housing. In the area of Bourneville, if you go to Cadbury's World, there's like quite a narrative around the vision they'd got for creating like a workplace that contributed towards people's lives and supported it. And I just think Coca-Cola almost sound like they're the modern day. They're trying to be that in the modern day, but I'm not sure because we're now at such a level whether they, you know, that's their role to do it. So yeah, some thoughts around that. So just in terms of everything that they're trying to do through these employee developments, you know, is it about reinforcing the status quo? Is it about supporting employees to a new position? So, maintaining existing power relations, is it about that, or is it about threatening them? Are we trying to reduce? I think, again, back to Kieran's about the questionnaire, I think that's about reducing conflict actually by preempting it. I will be really interested to hear the finding. Well, I won't, because I'm obviously not internal, but sometimes I've heard of employee surveys, I've been aware of one where the findings were never published, and I think because there was such a high level of conflict, they didn't want to share that with people. So we've just got a lot of different roles it can play. So in theory, well, we've heard about quite a few different initiatives. When you look through that list there, what do you see as the key reasons why organisations invest in employee engagement? Why do they have these initiatives? What do you think?
To keep their employees.
Do you think it's
creating
retention, do you think?
Yes. And attracting people. Like somebody like, just based on what Emily said, like,
so you got attractive,
seeing what that company does. It's like, oh, I want to go work there.
I'll tell you what,
they're offering something that my company doesn't, right?
Absolutely. And it's a competitive, right, there are lots of people there are lots of workers, but there aren't necessarily lots of great people at work. So by having an attractive reputation, you attract them, and the idea is then you retain them, isn't it? Does anyone believe that sort of thing, employee engagement, increases business performance? Do you think people work harder as a result?
I'd say so. I'd say if you're more engaged and more like you have things there, you're gonna work harder to get them.
Yeah, okay. Gives their best, goes the extra mile. Loyal, motivated, enthusiastic. So we've got that. And actually, you're a salesperson. Everyone who works for an organisation should be an ambassador for it, shouldn't they? Do you think it's possible, though? Do you think people are committed more to their managers or the organisations they work for?
Their managers.
Isn't it hard to create an emotional bond with do you know what I mean? With an organisation like Coca-Cola, because it sort of feels detached, doesn't it? Whereas with individuals, you actually you're in a relationship with them, aren't you? Is there any other reason? Can you see any other benefits for investing in employee engagement?
Not from like an employee point of view, but if you were wanting to invest in a company and it looked like they were looking after their employees, it might be more appealing to like an investor.
Yeah, I think from all sorts of stakeholders' points of view, from a PR point of view, you're just looking like you're the good guys, aren't you? Really, you're a business that you want to do business with. So yeah, I can see that actually, that it's just sets you apart, doesn't it? Okay. A tip or two for this one then. When are you looking at employee engagement, these initiatives, maybe have a look for some contradictory research. So look, first of all, for some research on the benefits of it in terms of actually does it increase motivation, etc. And then you could also see if there's any contradictory research that shows that it makes no difference whatsoever, or if anything is a distraction. Do you know what I mean? So see if you can find any sources on that are credible. I was trying to, in my marketing business, write quite a lot of, I do sort of social media content for some of my clients. And I'm sure, I'm trying to work out what publication it was in. I think it was in HR News. There was an article recently that, it sounded like it was just stating the obvious, but it was basically happy employees are more productive employees, and it had some research findings on that. So that's the sort of thing that I mean here. You might find something that actually says you know, it's almost like employers are forced to do it. You might have an alternative school of thought, but not from yourself. You can then comment on it, but from like doing a bit of research that actually it isn't that employees want to do this, they have to do it to almost be a starting point as in a competitive marketplace. So yeah, so research it, not just what they're doing, but the role of it for the organisation as well. So the next thing that we're doing today, I'm sharing everything that I don't want to. Just let me get back onto, here we go. Right, so we'll have just 10 minutes if that's okay, and then we're going to look at business ethics. Before we do that, I've got 2 dates that I got in mind for our portfolio day that I had a look at. And I'm not sure either of them are going to work for you. So I'm just going to see if I give them to you. Can you see if you're working or if you're on leave? One of them, you see, is in. So what I'm thinking is, if either date covered everyone, I could potentially run 2 days, if that makes sense. So it might not be that everyone's on the same day. But just because we've got every session on a Wednesday, sometimes it's quite hard to get Wednesdays. Okay. I don't think, Rob, you'll be able to do this one because I think of the shutdown and maybe lots of you couldn't. But could anyone make Wednesday the 4th of August? Portfolio day. So who's saying yeah? So Kieran, yep.
Yep.
Anyone else?
I'm not on shutdown because we don't have those, but I've actually got that week booked off. But
okay.
If it depends how long the session's going to be, I don't mind popping to it because I'm not going away on holiday.
Okay. Let's just see if anyone else could make it. Shall I give you my alternate one? The alternate one, the reason why I think no one will be able to make this one either is because it's on the bank holiday week. And I was thinking Wednesday the 1st of September. Could anyone make that?
Yeah.
Okay.
What date again, sorry?
Wednesday the 1st of September.
Oh, that should be an issue.
What was that, sorry?
That should not be an issue for me.
Oh, okay. All right. So Tom M could do it. Kieran, are you still available?
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. Good stuff. Tamsin, you sound like you could do it. Could you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wednesday the 1st September. Okay. Emily, what's your availability like? Are you away that week or?
No, I can do either dates.
Okay, lovely. Tom A?
Yeah, do September.
Okay, 1st September, looking good then. Rob, are you going to make 54 miles on the 1st of September?
Yeah, it should be fine.
Okay. All right, Krishna, it all rests on you.
Yeah, I'm free.
Hey, do you want to put it in your diaries then? Well, like you don't have to do it now, but put it in your provisionally. Put it in your diary. I've contacted Kelly and I've asked if she can make it. If she couldn't make it, I can still do it, and I'll prepare and run the session. I need to book a room. It'll be on the university, and I'll come up like with a plan for the day. Make it really helpful. Okay, got a deal?
I've not been to the uni. Can you just send an email of like how we get in and stuff?
Yeah, where it is. Yeah, and which room we're in, etc. Yeah, I'll give you all the joining instructions and. I need to do a little bit more work on just making it happen. Do you know what I wanted to do is while we're all together, actually like finalise what we, sort of at least have a date and an idea. So that I think is really good.